Hello friends, and welcome to another book club reading vlog. This is going to be spoiler filled, so if you have not read Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez, then maybe don't watch this one. But we are going to go through, read this bad boy, and I'm so excited. One thing about me is I'm an Abby Jimenez stan. I've been seeing this getting mixed ratings, and I've seen a lot of people say that it's too sad, but like the thing about me is I love a sad book. I love to cry. I like books to make me miserable and to wallow in self-pity. And so the thought that this is like a really sad book is actually making me want to read it more. So maybe that's a me problem. Book club, linked down below. It's on Fable, it is free, and it is no obligation. If we're reading a book and you don't think it sounds good, don't read it. Simply, it's that easy. But we are going to be reading this one, and all I know about this book is that it's dual point of view. We have got, I think, Samantha and Xavier, and they met, they fought, then they fell hard. There might be no such thing as the perfect guy, but Xavier Rush comes to stay disastrously close. A gorgeous veterinarian giving Greek god vibes, all while cuddling a tiny kitten? Immediately, yes. That is until Xavier opens his mouth and proves that even sculpted gods can say the absolute wrong thing. Of course, there's nothing Samantha loves more than proving an asshole wrong. Unless, of course, he can admit that he made a mistake, but after one incredible and seemingly endless date, possibly the best in the living history, Samantha is forced to admit the truth, that her family is in crisis and that any kind of relationship would be impossible. Samantha begs Xavier to forget her, to remember their night together as a perfect moment, as crushing as that may be. Absolutely no amount of distance or time is nearly enough to forget that something between them. And the only thing better than one single perfect memory is to make a life and even a love worth remembering. So like, I think I'm gonna give it 5 stars. I'm just being so for real with you right now. Every Abby book I've ever read has been 4 or 5 stars, and I don't see this being any different. So let's go. I'm excited. We just came inside. We've been outside for a bit, and I've read the first about 100. So I read the first 100 pages, and I am reading this physically, and I have been annotating. I think going forward for these, reminder, this is a spoiler video. For these spoiler videos, I'm gonna try to read the books physically and annotate them physically so that I know what I want to talk about with you guys. But I thought we'd do a 25% check-in. Also, I got this physical copy at a bookstore back home, and look at how perfectly the bookmark that they gave me matches the book. I also have these tabs that match the colors of the book perfectly. I'm not using a specific color for anything. I'm literally just flipping, like going down the line of the colors. But in this book, we have our 2 characters, Samantha and Xavier, and it's dual point of view. And basically, Samantha finds this kitten, and Xavier is a vet, and she brings the kitten into the vet to like have her looked at, and she has some sort of disease where basically she literally doesn't have a butthole, and the surgery is going to be like 10 grand, and he's like, you should just put her down, and she's like, no. So she raises the money, gets the surgery, whatever. She brings her back to the vet to get like medication to travel because she's going out of town. Xavier asks her on a date. She says yes, and they have this most amazing date ever. And then she basically gets stuck in a escape room. Like the place closes and leaves them there for hours. And upon the place like opening up, he takes her to her apartment so she can get her stuff because she has to be there. Her flight leaves in 2 hours. And he realizes that she's not just going out of town, she's staying out of town, and she is moving. And he is devastated because he has absolutely like loved the date. It was like the best date he's ever been on. So I'm gonna go through some of the things that I have highlighted. So in the first chapter, this woman comes in because she wants to put her dog down and her mom's dog down, and he's like, well, he's healthy. She's like, yeah, I know, but I want to put him down. Like, I don't want him. And so that happens right before, I believe that was like in the first sentences. Yeah, it says, I want you to put him down. He's healthy. I know. And I just wrote, what the fuck? And then Samantha is at the vet, and she said she's going to raise the money, and he's like, what makes you think you can fundraise the money? And she says, people are inherently good. They want to help. And he says, people are inherently assholes. And she says, yeah, well, so are you. And I thought that was so funny. And then the next chapter, another thing that I highlighted that's like one of my favorite things ever. I wrote facts. It's so iconic. It says, I will never get why white men are grumpy. Like, we're living in a patriarchy. You're the most privileged class on the face of the earth. You're not walking around with your keys through your fingers like Wolverine, and you've got bodily autonomy. Why the bad mood? Hilarious. Iconic. And okay, I'm not going to read you everything because some things are just like hee ha-has. So basically, the reason she is going to be moving back home is that her mom has dementia, like early onset. She's like 50, and things are not going well. She does not remember Samantha. And so Samantha agrees to go on this date, and she's talking to her sister, and she's like, what are you doing? And she's like, oh yeah, you know, like he asked me if I like boats, but I didn't ask many questions because I like the thrill of the unknown. And then, like, I know this is going to be an interconnected standalone series based on Goodreads, and I hope the next one's about her sister Geneva. And Geneva says, yeah, well, the thrill of the unknown is what gets you murdered. Text me where you're going. Literally me. Geneva is me. But then this was so sad. It says, my mom has dementia. She's only 54. It started a few years ago with problems focusing after a small head injury. She thought it was just the concussion taking longer to heal or a menopausal brain fog, but then it turned into other things. Repeating questions, getting lost, crashing the car into a palm tree outside of Whole Foods in Pasadena because she got the pedals mixed up, and now she doesn't know my name. Literally, my grandma has Alzheimer's or dementia. I don't know the difference, I will be honest. But she goes through days where, like, my mom died 9 years ago. She, like, doesn't remember that, like, her daughter died. So it's just, like, really hitting home on some of these things. Also, so when that lady came with her dog and wanted to put him down, basically Xavier is, like, gave her ashes from, like, some dog that was, like, a stray that they had to cremate, and he basically steals the dog. And so he starts asking her, they're talking about pet names. He's like, what would you name a dog in the witness protection program? I tilted my head. Wow, sounds serious. Boy or girl? Boy. What kind of dog? Mixed breed, long hair. What color? Brown. I'm thinking Jake from State Farm. That way when somebody says, where'd you get that dog from? You can be like, State Farm. And he does name it that, which I think is hilarious. And then they go on the date, and the date that they go on is this fundraiser boat cruise to raise money for one of the shelters, and he's trying to, like, think of a way to continue the date. So he texts his friends and is like, what's open late? No food, we just ate. And they tell him to go to this mini golf place that has, like, a bunch of other things, and he gets there and all, like, what's wrong? My friends are here. Oh, which ones? All of them. They're just all there. And he says, you didn't sign up to meet my friends. I didn't know they'd be here. I wouldn't have sprung this on you without your permission. And then she says, I promise I'll always tell you if things are not okay. Literally iconic. We love the communication. And that reminded me, whenever me and my husband went on our first date, it was with my permission, but it was a double date, and it was horrible. It was one of the worst dates I've ever been on in my whole life. So it just made me hee ha ha about that. And the next chapter, Xavier's talking about himself, and it's literally so relatable. I wasn't social. I wasn't an introvert so much as people just irritated me. I didn't like dealing with humans I didn't know. I didn't like parties unless they were intimate. I knew everyone here. I knew everyone there. I hated mingling. I hated networking even more. Literally me. Literally me. Literally so relatable to me. So she ends up telling him, her sister calls, she drops her phone in the lake, he gets the phone for her, and she ends up telling him about her mom, and she says, my mom has dementia, she's fading away, and I haven't been home in 7 months. Everyone is taking care of her but me, and she doesn't know my name anymore, and I feel like that's my fault because I could have come home sooner, but I didn't want to because I wanted to forget what was happening, and then it happened without me, and now I can't get it back. And that made my, oh my god, my heart so sad. And then Xavier starts opening up about his childhood and how his parents were abusive, physically, verbally, mentally, emotionally. He left when he was 17, and he says, I think that's why my emotions don't get away from me. Why? She asked. Because when I showed how I felt, that's how they knew how to hurt me. My dad's insults and barbs drove me. I heard them in the back of my mind every day of my life, telling me I was lazy and pathetic and I would never amount to anything. Proving him wrong was the fuel behind every single thing I did. And that absolutely breaks my heart for sweet baby Xavier. I will admit there are a lot of, like, they've used the term like mid, they've compared him to Rhysand a lot from ACOTAR. It doesn't bother me that much. I don't really care about it. Like, I think it's fun when I read books that were written like 10 years ago and there's like little references. So I feel like if you read this in 10 years, those will be like sweet little nostalgic things. So maybe it's a little corny in the moment, but I think it'll age well. Samantha also referred to their date as a core memory, which I thought was super cute. And then he took her to the airport and he handed me his hoodie. The plane will be cold. What happens now? He asks quietly. I squeeze my eyes shut. You forget me. My heart. And then Samantha arrived home and her sister says, come in quietly, no big hello, I'll introduce you. She might be quiet, just give her some time to get used to you. To introduce me to my own mom. Literally makes my heart want to cry. Oh my god. So the whole family is basically moving in to Samantha's grandmother's house. There's Samantha, her sister Geneva, her brother Tristan, her grandma, the dad, and the mom are all living in this 5-bedroom, 5-bathroom house that also has a garage with an apartment above it. And Samantha's staying in the apartment. I guess her brother used to stay there, but they're all pissed at him. And so he's gonna stay in the basement. And he says, the space was a large windowless room in the bowels of the basement where grandma used to play Dungeons and Dragons back in the day. She painted the walls in the 80s with an epic orange dragon fresco that we all loved. To be fair, we hadn't used the game room in forever, but the wine cellar was in there. But as somebody who plays Dungeons and Dragons, I thought that was so funny and I loved it. And then basically the mom knows who Tristan is, and that is something that's super duper hard for Samantha because she remembers both her brother and her sister and she doesn't remember her. But when mom saw Tristan, her whole expression changed. Tristan, hi mommy. He jumped off his stool and hugged her, and I watched her face over his shoulder, lit and happy, color in the gray world. The lump bolted into my throat and I had to look at the collection of green blown glass on the windowsill over the sink to keep from sobbing. I didn't care that she remembered him. I was glad she did. I cared that she didn't remember me. What about me made me less permanent? Why did I fade to gray when everyone else was bright? Literally could sob. Makes me feel so sad for her. And then I have one other thing. So when they were at the like carnival type place, like playing the games, doing laser tag, playing mini golf, they won like tickets like you would get in an arcade to get prizes. And so whenever they got all of their prizes before they went into the escape room, and then when they got out, the manager's like, oh my god, is there anything they can do? And prior to going into the escape room, they talked about like wanting the lava lamp, but they didn't have enough tickets, so he made the lady give them the lava lamp. But Samantha left it with him whenever she left. She's like, I don't have room for it. And he's like, I'll mail it. And she's like, no, you keep it. And so I'm just at the part now where Xavier calls her out of the blue. It's been a few weeks and is like, can I come visit you? Like, I want to come see you. And she says, yeah, and bring my lava lamp. So funny. But I'm loving it so far. Like, so far, feeling like 5-star because I do love my Abby Jimenez. I know people have been hating on the ACOTAR references, and I know people have been hating on like the kind of insta love situation, but I'm just like, maybe I'm blinded because it's Abby Jimenez, but I'm so far loving it. I will admit, I'm having a really, really fun time reading this. I do hope to read the rest of it today. I don't even really know what time it is. I'm about to go get a snack and then continue on my journey, but I love. Okay guys, I'm about 100 pages deeper into the book. We've got all of our tabs looking so cute. And so we're still continuing on with the story. Basically, Samantha has moved and she's living in Minnesota now, and he has come to visit her a couple of times. And basically he wants to give the long distance thing a shot. Samantha's not sure about it, but things are just getting harder and harder with her mom, and she just ends up giving into it. Some things, they did mention Nadia Cakes, which if you don't know, Abby Jimenez was actually on the Food Network, and she does have a cupcake business, and it's called Nadia Cakes. And when he came to visit, he says, I brought you something. You brought me cupcakes? Nadia Cakes. And I always love that little like cameo in her books. They went on like a super cute date whenever he visited. They went and like did a bunch of like the touristy things because he's never seen the ocean. He's never been to California. And this quote I really loved. They say you won't remember what someone said, but you'll always remember how they made you feel. I don't think this moment would have been the same if it wasn't for how it felt, ocean or no. So cute. Then there was this part where Samantha's talking about how she feels about Xavier and how she likes the way he is with her, and this whole paragraph really spoke to me. But mostly I liked that he felt turned toward me. Like, just that phrase really hit. Like, somebody's like engaging in what you're saying. Like, I was the only thing interesting in a place full of interesting landmarks and people and things. He never once pulled out his phone for anything other than taking pictures. I told him I loved shells, and he spent our walk along the water looking for ocean jewels to hand me like it was his job. I preferred his ice cream more than mine, and he switched with me. He wouldn't take no for an answer. When it got windy on the beach, he wrapped me in a towel. Literally, just like, he's a very acts of service man. Like, if he wanted to, he would. And I'm loving that little aspect of it. This was so sad. They were talking about, he's very much like asking her like about her mom and just to tell her about that, and she says, I wish you could have met her. I said, almost to myself, I'd like to. I felt my smile fade. Even if you do, you never will. And like, that literally just gave me chills, because even if he does meet the mom, she isn't herself, and that's just really heartbreaking. And then there's a bunch of drama still going on with her brother, and they're like having very like sister brother relationship, very sibling dynamics, and she thinks that he popped her air mattress as like to get revenge, and she and Xavier go up to her room and like they're gonna have sex, and like then the air mattress pops, and she blames Tristan, and Tristan says, also your raggedy ass air mattress was flat when I came in to get my head poured. I found the hole and put duct tape on it and filled it back up for you. Not my fault you two humped it into the carpet. I actually LOL'd at that. I thought it was so funny. And then because the title of this book is Say You'll Remember Me, I think part of that is in reference to like her mom is forgetting everything, but whenever she moves, she says like for him to forget her, and then this line, you didn't remember to forget me. No, I did not. My fucking heart. Also this, I loved this like phrase in this like sentiment. You know what I just realized through all of this? What? That there's nothing more beautiful than being witness to someone's life, to know them inside out, and to be with them through everything, share the same memories. Memories are everything. I want that. A witness to your life? Yeah, I want someone who knows everything there is to know about me, and I want to know everything about them. I want to be able to say one out of context comment to someone and they just get what it means, and they laugh, and it's just some stupid joke from like 11 years ago that means nothing to anyone else. And then there's been this running joke about the song Come On Eileen, and so he says like come on Eileen, and she's like yeah, exactly. So it's like they already have like these inside jokes and memories, and it's just so pure. And then she's also talking about how like if it wasn't for her mom being sick, she would be with Xavier and she'd be there, and this part was so sad. She couldn't make any more memories with me, but I could still make memories with her. I would be a witness to her life even though she was done witnessing mine. Almost brought me right to tears. So freaking sad. So frickety sad. And then there's this whole thing about like her dad. The dad is really struggling because the mom relies so heavily on him, and like he has to wake up and see like the love of his life not be that person anymore, and it's just a very interesting dynamic, and it's like you don't know what to do in that situation. Like obviously he wants to be there for her, but he is so lonely and it is taking such a toll on him. And for example, he got a gym membership, and one morning he was going to go swim at the pool at the gym like 2 hours before he usually leaves, and it resulted in her mom going to the hospital because she had such a meltdown over it. But this has to be its own type of hell for him. She was here, but she wasn't. She hadn't died, so he couldn't stop grieving her and move on. He just had to watch her forget their entire life together. Forget him and forget herself too. The snowball melting at the bottom of the hill. Like, it's just like, what do you do? Do you tell him like it's okay if you find somebody else? But yeah, then there's this whole super funny section about getting revenge on Xavier's dad that made me laugh. And then she basically told him that they're not going to be together and to like leave. So for 6 weeks he doesn't say anything to her, and then she randomly gets a call from him, and he's like, yeah, like I'm in Long Beach for a convention. Do you want to grab dinner tonight as friends? And her brother's like, he's here for you. I hope you know that. Like, he's not here for the veterinary thing. And it was just super funny, like brother sister squabble, a little squabble. Then basically after the dinner, they like, he like makes it known that basically she looked up the conference, and he's asking like, she's like, what time does the thing tomorrow? And he's like 8 a.m. blah 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 blah. And he's like, do you want to get breakfast, or like I could skip it? And she's like, Xavier, what? There is a conference. Yeah, there is. It's important for your continued education requirement. I said, repeating what he told me. Yeah. I paused. Are you registered for it? Silence again. No, I'm not. So like he just proves that he's there just to see her, and he says, not seeing you is terrible and I don't want to do it anymore. That's it. I gave up. I turned around and kissed him. So good. But that's kind of where I am currently at. We're a little bit over halfway. We're on page 195 out of 350. So I have about 150 pages to go. It is 8 o'clock. I don't know if I'm gonna finish this. It's getting kind of dark in here, and I don't like reading with artificial light. So usually at night I read on my Kindle, but since I'm physically annotating this, I don't want to read on my Kindle. So I'm not sure what my plan is. I do want to watch an episode of Handmaid's Tale tonight at some point, but I think I'm gonna keep going because I really want to see how this ends up. This is very insta-love, so I can see if you're super against insta-love not liking it, but I'm really enjoying it. But Abby Jimenez could write me the phone book, and I understand that I am biased towards her. But I love the like family aspect of this book. It's very much so hard-hitting, and I'm loving it. And it looks really stupid without the dust jacket, but I was crinkling it and it was upsetting me. Also, I'm not like the biggest fan of the white on here, but I think this is Abby's first hardcover, so very proud of her. Very proud of her. Y'all, we finished. We finished, and it's 5 stars. I mean, I'm not sure anybody is surprised. Look at those tabs. It is so good. I think the last time we checked in was around 190 pages, and at this point they had decided to be boyfriend and girlfriend. And so basically, as we continue on the book, we go through how it's like really difficult for them to be in this long distance relationship and not having the funds really to keep going back and forth to visit each other. Though they talk about how though Xavier is a doctor, because he is a veterinarian, that he doesn't have all of this excess money because school was expensive. He built his own business. He's hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. He is basically bringing home less than minimum wage because all of his income is going to paying towards these like business loans. And so he's working like 80 hours a week, working overnights to be able to make enough money to buy a plane ticket to go visit Samantha. And then Samantha doesn't have the opportunity for overtime at her work, and all of her time that she's not working, she's taking care of her mom. And her brother, he buys her a plane ticket and is like, here you go. Her brother buys her a plane ticket home, and she says to him, he's so far away, Tristan. And Tristan says, and this isn't 1851. You're not waiting 5 months for handwritten letter to come on a steam train. Get your shit together. And I just thought that was so funny. Basically, she surprises him and she comes home, and this passage here really hit hard. She didn't tell him she was coming, and she's like standing in front of the his work, and she like sees him, and he looks up and sees her. And it says, I'd taken recognition for granted my whole life. The way it lights someone up, how it can speak to you without a word across a crowded room. That split second of raw reaction when you're seen and known. Relief, joy, happiness at locking eyes with someone you were looking for or seeing somebody you didn't expect. I'd never seen that look. I will never see that look on Mom again. I squeezed my eyes shut and I let myself feel it. I wanted to feel how it felt to come home. So this is what my life was now. Long droughts without him, but with short bursts of him. This was worth it. And it's like a lot of talk about long distance relationships, and I know that this book got a lot of heat for the fact that this book is very sad and there's not a lot of happy in it. And as somebody who loves a sad book, I love that, but also this book feels like real life. It does not feel like escapism, and I know a lot of people read for escapism. I read more to feel less alone, and this book was kind of bleak, but life is kind of bleak, and life isn't a fairy tale. It's not a rom-com, and neither is this book. But basically, she also like opens his refrigerator, and he threw away his French's mustard, and he has Merkel's, which is the mustard company she works for. And she says the best memories don't have to be big to be forever, and that literally makes me want to cry. And then he's talking about seeing, I would never forget that moment when I saw her through the glass yesterday, looking out at the door and seeing her standing there holding the handle of her luggage, wearing a sweater with a scarf wrapped around her neck. She never had the right jacket. The memory of that moment was already tucked away. My brain had wrapped around it, storing it in a place I kept my most special things. My first kiss, my first love, seeing my dog Winnie for the first time, seeing Winnie for the last time. Weird knowing what's going to be in your end-of-life montage as it's happening. But I already know when my life flashed before my eyes, the best parts of it were going to be about her. Oh my God, I was sobbing. Sobbing. And then they were talking about, like, if they won $1 million, what would they do? And he's saying he'd pay off his clinic and blah, 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 blah. And she was like, I'd pay off your clinic too. I'd like to really stick it to your parents. And he says to her, there's nothing else you want to do with the money? And she says, there's nothing else that would make me happy. There's no cure for dementia even if I have $1 million. If there was, that's what I would use the money for. He said to her, and her eyes went soft and said, I know you would, and that's why I like being alone in rooms with you. It's just like, he's such a good man, you know what I mean? And then she's talking about basically his mom calls him, and she's so narcissistic. She's just like wants to be a part of his life now that he is successful, and he wants no part of it. And he says to Samantha, I don't know why they still get to me. And Samantha says, because they're your first bullies. For some reason, you never grow out of the way you feel about people who hurt you when you were a kid. And that just also hit so fucking hard, you know what I mean? So there was this other part that talks about, like, as you grow up and you start to like see your parents for actual people, and it's like him explaining to Samantha everything going on with his parents and like his mom calling. And one thing I really liked about this book is Xavier was very communicative with Samantha about the things that he's gone through in life, and like his parents' abuse and what they've done to like cause the severance in their relationship. And I find a lot of the times in romance books, the main male character is very closed off from his emotions, and like Xavier gives man who's been to therapy. But Samantha says, yeah, I think we grow up and we either get harder or we get softer on our parents. We realize how fucked up they actually were, or we give them a pass because adulting is hard and now we get it. They're people and they make mistakes. And that's something that, like, I'm literally like getting, I don't know if you can tell, literally getting goosebumps about that, because I feel like growing up I was very, very hard on my dad in particular. And now as an adult, whenever like I look back on things, my mindset now as an adult, like being an adult, is he was doing the best he could, you know? And that's all you can really ask, is for somebody to do their best. Then they also were having a conversation about like if they wanted kids eventually, and they're both like in agreement. And she's like, you really wouldn't break up with me if I couldn't get pregnant? And he's like, no. Would you break up with me if I couldn't get you pregnant? And she said, hell no. That's a big decision though. A lot of guys would leave their partner if they couldn't have kids. I never understood that. And she said, why? And he said, because if you were my wife, you would be my world. Everything starts with you and ends with you, and anything else is just the stuff that happens in the middle. I thought that was so sweetie pie honey bunch. Okay, so then there is this other situation that happens where basically the big issue, one of the big issues is money, which is a real thing that is an issue for most people. And so essentially, Xavier, is working all the time because he can't afford also to hire another doctor because he can't afford to even pay himself a doctor's salary. So he is out with like a bunch of people from work, and they basically have set him up for this guy, Hank, to come talk to him. And he's basically a retired vet. And he's like, yeah, like, I want to come, like, volunteer. And, like, you don't have to pay me. He's like, I'm retired. Like, I don't need money. I have more money than I know what to do with. If you feel so bad about it, you can pay my gas for me to get from get there to there, but I want to make my own schedule. I only want to work every other day, whatever. He said, I don't need the money. What I need is people. So socialization. I need something to look forward to every day, something to get me up and out of bed, to keep me moving. You can volunteer, I said. There's plenty of rescues that will take you. And he said, but they don't have them, pointing to be like assistants from Xavier's vets thing. And he says, before the ladies came to work for you, they worked for me. So it's the old doctor that they used to work for. And it was just so cute. And he says, welcome to the team. And as this is happening, he gets a call from Samantha, and Samantha calls him in a panic, and she says, it's my grandma. She didn't wake up this morning. She died. And so we're really like shaken because there's so much going on, and for in the middle of everything going on, for just all of a sudden her grandma died. Nobody was expecting that. She was healthy, she was happy. That felt, as somebody whose grandma literally just died a couple of months ago in the middle of life being hectic, it felt realistic. Then the next chapter, and her grandma also died on Christmas Eve, started with, I would never remember Christmas Eve the same way again. It would be the day my heart had been broken, probably for as long as I lived. A lifetime of good memories and moments wiped out by one tragic event and rebranded into the day that the bad thing happened. Also very relatable. And Xavier spent all of the money he had been saving to come get to her. And it says, suddenly at 1:08 a.m. Christmas morning, I felt a dip in the side of the bed. Suddenly I was wrapped in firm, familiar, warm arms, and for the first time in 16 hours I was held together enough by someone to completely fall apart. I utterly lost my shit. It's literally making me cry because I've been in that moment where you're trying to hold it all together for your family and for everybody else, and then like there's just that one person that makes you feel safe, and that's what he did for her. And then she says, my whole body racked with sobs. She was gone. One minute she was alive, and then she wasn't. I thought my mom's dementia was cruel. It was cruel. It was a long goodbye, but no goodbye was just as bad. And that's so like how I feel, but like the opposite. Like my grandma who just died, like she was very, very sick, and it was a very long goodbye. Like I felt like I've already mourned her dying, but my mom had a heart attack and died when she was 48 years old, and like no goodbye is just as fucking bad as watching somebody deteriorate. And then also this, we didn't even get a chance to say goodbye. She was there and then she wasn't, and now I'm never gonna see her again. I literally wrote ouch, because that one hurt. And basically they're going through it all, and Xavier's working himself so hard. Like they ended up not seeing each other for like 3 months after he goes home because he literally can't afford it, and he gets so sick from running himself so ragged, and she tries to convince him to break up with her, and he's like, no, I'm not gonna do it. And she says, why? And he says, because life wouldn't be worth living if I didn't remember you. It's so hard, she says. Would you erase the memories of your grandma so you wouldn't feel how you feel right now? And she said, no. And he's like, some things are worth remembering, Samantha, no matter how much they hurt. And it's just like so true. Then there's this whole thing where after the grandma dies, Samantha has to become the primary caregiver. She gets fired from her job, and now this is even putting more of a strain on everything going on with them. Like her company merged and they just like fired her, and she's looking for a new job, but somebody has to care for her mom, so she's doing it. And there's a lot of talk about how her mom would want dignity, and she wouldn't want, because she's to the point where she is having accidents and is having to wear diapers, and she wouldn't want her adult children changing her diapers and giving her a bath. And there's a lot of talk on like the dad, and like he ends up like having an affair or like seeing people on the side. And at first the kids are very like upset about this, but then like with some time to think about it, they're like, he needs something that's gonna bring him joy. But there's a lot of talk about them not wanting to put her in a home because she didn't want that. And they're kind of like, well, here's the thing, like the grandma also had a condition and the dad knew about it, and the dad knew she was dying, but she didn't want to put any more stress on everybody else, so she didn't ever bring it up. And basically there's all of this drama. She calls like a family meeting after taking care of the mom for a while because she gets a job offer, and she's like, listen, I haven't gotten a job offer and we are not working like a team. We need to be a team for mom right now, or she needs to go in a home. They are the only options. Tristan, her brother, she's like, you don't go to bed until 3 o'clock in the morning, whereas dad has to get up and go to work, and he is not getting sleep because he is up with mom all night long because she won't sleep and she's having these meltdowns, and he is trying to care for her, but he needs to sleep so that he can go to work. Why don't you deal with her, like be her caregiver until you go to bed so that dad can get a little bit of sleep and be more well rested and be present with the family? And like, she's like, so the options is you guys can pay my bills. Like, they all took out a loan to remodel the house. You guys can pay my portion of the loan. You can pay my car bill. You can pay all of these bills for me while I take care of mom. Or I'm taking this job offer and we need to hire help or put her in a home. Those are the only options. And basically Tristan says about the dad, oh no, for someone who cares so much about sleep, he sure disappears a lot between the hours of midnight and 2. What I do to relieve stress is none of your business, dad says. If you're trying to dump her in some nursing home so you can fuck around, it is. Your mother is beyond understanding anything that happens in this house or in this marriage, so you're admitting it. The dad stares at him and says, I love my wife. I always will. There are days I'd rather be dead than have to live through the things happening to her. Her body might still be here, but she is gone, and she has been for a very long time. I am a full-time caregiver to somebody who barely knows my name. I will not apologize for what I have to do to make it so I can wake up in the morning to the reality I'm forced to endure. My life is a permanent, intolerable unhappiness, and I pray you never know what this is like. The siblings are all going back and forth about it, and eventually Samantha says, Dad's being forced to make decisions that none of us could ever comprehend. He has had to think about what is right for her, what is right for us, what's right for his grandkids. And everything he said was true. Her care is complicated. We're all making sacrifices and nobody's making them more than him. So if you want to be pissed about somebody, be pissed that our grandmother had a terminal illness so that we didn't know about until 2 weeks after she was dead. Another thing that I thought was like really important was something that Xavier said to Samantha, which was, you need to de-escalate yourself before you can do anything for her, okay? You need to put on the oxygen, you need to put the oxygen mask on yourself first. And I thought that was very powerful because it is very true. You can't take care of somebody and be there for somebody if you are in the middle of a meltdown. Basically, Xavier is talking to Hank, who he works with, right? And he's talking about, oh my god, this is all so good. So he's basically telling Xavier, because he's like, looks like shit, is acting like shit, is feeling like shit, because he misses Samantha. Hank is basically like, you need to go be with her. And he's like, I can't, the business, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, what is like your big fear here? And basically, his big fear is proving his parents right that he's a failure. And Hank says to him, I would trade everything for one more day with my wife. Everything. If you love that girl even as half as much as I loved my Claire, you will pack your bags and leave yesterday. None of this matters. None of it. It's just stuff. You can build another clinic somewhere else, but that, what you have with her, that is not easy to find. The universe does not just hand out true love. And I know that's what this is because I see you're willing to kill yourself over it. So if you're one of the lucky ones, why on God's green earth would you give it up? And they just have like a real heart to heart, and Hank basically, oh my god, I'm gonna cry, is talking to him and is talking about like the big moments in his life, and he says, oh my god, this is so good. He's talking about like how his credit's gonna be bad and everything's gonna be bad and dot 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 dot. He's like, my credit, yup, that's gonna be bad for a while, but what's stopping you? Your pride. If you love this girl, if you don't love her enough, that's fine, like my apologies. And Hank says, this is out of left field, but do you talk to your parents? And he says, no. Why not? It's hard to explain. I figured as much. Did you know that my clinic used to be over on Main? No, I didn't know that. Yeah, that business was with a bad partner, the one that went under. It used to be New Hope Veterinary back then. And so we learn earlier in the book that Xavier's dad was a piece of shit, and they had a pet dog, Winnie, and he wouldn't get Winnie spayed because he was cheap, and then Winnie kept getting pregnant, and the dad would drown the puppies. Okay? The dad sucked. And so Hank says, I met this young man there a long time ago. Probably 17, 18 years ago now. I thought about him for over a decade. Never stopped, really. He came in with this collie mix, and I'll never forget her name, Winnie. I froze. That's you, isn't it? I wasn't sure when at first. Took me a few weeks to settle on it. It was the eyes I remembered. You got taller and got a beard, but the eyes didn't change. You came in with that dog and I helped her. Shit parents, and I remember correctly, and now here you are. I've been much for believing in fate, and I gotta tell you, this one makes a huge argument. Or maybe it's karma. Good people attracting other good people. The ladies working for you because you're a good doctor, and then coming to get me because they knew it would be a safe place for me when I needed it. Anyway, no matter how I ended up here, I think it was because I was supposed to see how you turned out. And look at you. Look at everything you did. And then he's talking about like his life with his wife and how like you need to just like embrace all the moments. And he's like, all I've got left of her now are memories. You still have a chance to make them, and I'll be disappointed if you don't. And it just really, really, really hit. And then again, more about like the dad in regards to the mom. Sometimes love and commitment look like caring for a person you're married to by feeding them and putting on their pajamas and brushing their teeth. I will love your mother until the day I die. I will whisper her name with my last breath. I'm not looking to replace her. I can never replace her. I just need something in my life that isn't this. There's no bad guy here, Tristan. I know it would make it easier if there was, but there's just not. And it's just so true. Like, I don't know in that situation like how I would feel, but it's really, really, it's like an impossible situation. So everything's going pretty good. She starts caring for her mom, and everybody else is helping, and it's great, blah, blah, blah. And then she's on the phone. It's the anniversary of she and Xavier's first date, and they're talking on the phone, and he's like, oh, you're gonna be getting flowers in the mail, ... And she walks into the house and he's there, and she's like, you brought your dog, like Maggie couldn't watch him, and he says she could, but it wouldn't make sense for a one-way trip. What do you mean a one-way trip? No, Xavier, please don't play with me. I'm not. You didn't. Yes, I did. But your practice, I don't care. I don't care about any of it. I'm tired of waiting for forever. Oh my God, so good. Basically, he like proposes to her, and it says, Mom was standing in the door of the gazebo watching us. She was beaming from ear to ear. She knew. Something ingrained in her told her she was seeing true love. Her heart remembering even though her brain had forgotten. She didn't know who I was or who he was, but she still knew what love was. Love is the brightest color in a gray world. Oh my God, I can't take it. Ugh. And then in the epilogue, it's 11 months later, he's opened a practice in California, and this was just a little funny line, because now he has 2 buildings with his name on it, and Samantha goes, I hope his parents' eyes bled every time they Googled him, and I was just like, same girl, same. Xavier is like, they're still living in the apartment above the garage, like nothing crazy has changed, they're just like planning a wedding. And they talk about her mom. They said she had witnesses to her life and love. She was surrounded by love, and there was nothing more beautiful. 5 stars, simply. I'm like just reading these quotes, so emotional over it, and I'm so sad. I only have one more Abby Jimenez book in the backlog, and then I'm simply gonna just have to start them all over again because I loved it, and it hit so hard, and I gave it 5 stars. Make sure you join book club so you can participate and be a part of the picks moving forward. But that's everything, guys, and I'll see you next time. Bye.